So my name is Lauren Ballard. I work at a company called Reveal, which is in the e-discovery space. I am the chief of staff and director or VP of operations there. I recently got promoted, which is why I'm stumbling over that. I was the director of revenue operations, did a lot of work on the revenue side, doing KPI reporting for the sales team. We ended up having a lot more encompassed in that as you kind of look at the broader picture of a customer. So when I was promoted, I knew that there was even more to kind of come into the KPI landscape. Started my career at PwC in their M&A group, doing a lot of complex modeling, which ended up being good for understanding how to get the back-end data clean, proper, in its right space, and then ending up figuring out how to visualize that on the back end. I'm a Power BI person, so not a big Tableau, other side of the house stuff, but yeah. Yeah, I'd say to me, the most important thing is to understand what audience you're trying to target. Because, if you're trying to create KPIs for a group, I am now kind of more at the corporate level. So I don't always know what types of KPIs need to go in for R&D or for groups that I've never worked with in the past. So I start at the very beginning of just like a Google search. And I say like, what are key KPIs? And then you kind of work on, hey, what do these KPIs need for the original, like what numerators and denominators do I need? What kinds of things are these indicating? What data do I have right now that I can use that's readily available? What data am I close to being able to have if I index things in and do some back end work on it? I usually try to prioritize things that I already have because that's obviously the easiest. So I start there. And then from there, like, you kind of need to understand, all right, am I reporting this for an executive person or am I reporting this for someone who's like hands-on keyboard? Especially like in my last role when I was working on the sales team, a lot of the sales members, when they were using it, wanted to get nitty-gritty into the specific cases or how things are actually working at their clients for upsell purposes. But then when you go to like report out to the board or report out to your executive team, they need much higher level, like aggregated look. So to me, you got to think about what they want and also think about how you can organize the base level data. You're probably familiar, like the more data you have at the kind of bottom level, the more you can aggregate up and make it easier to visualize and make it easier to kind of compute on a macro level. So figuring out the bottom level of data that you have for those KPIs is a starting place for me. Well, first I ask. So that's the easiest one, is if there's something that someone's intending on getting out of something, you want to make sure you're getting that output. Sometimes the people that you are trying to create KPIs for either A, don't want to be tracked, so they're kind of cagey about that, or B, they are not really sure where to start. And when you're not really sure how to start, I think the best thing to do is to Google it, do research on what other people in the field are doing. It varies so much from person to person or group to group or whatever on what KPIs they want to track. And you shouldn't be reinventing the wheel. You can replicate things and they can evolve throughout time. So like start with the easy ones and figure out, okay, are there double clicks that this person wants? Give them the 5 that you think that is industry standard. And if there's a double click that they're saying, oh, I wonder if a part of this is related to this, then you can do further analysis on that and create a new chart. We've had so many requests in the past where we've said, okay, here's a chart, here's something KPI related, and the executive says, oh, can we have this twisted in another way or twisted on its back end? And if you build the back end data correctly, you can just create new views on some of that. So I don't really remember what your question was, but that was kind of a long-winded way, I think, of answering it. Yeah, I'd say a lot of times when there's mishaps, it's always on like the back end. So when I think about KPIs, usually it's you're aggregating large amounts of data up. And if that large amounts of data that's like there for the pretty upside of everything that makes it repeatable and makes it easy to use, which is how people actually use it. If your backend data is bad, the whole thing is going to be thrown away because people won't trust the data, people won't understand where you're trying to go with it, and they're just going to forget about it. So that's where I've seen most of my mistakes happen. I think the positive KPIs can really impact change. And I think if you if you're successful, they can help on the revenue side with upsells. So if you don't know your customer and you don't have the data behind it, or you haven't created a KPI with your sales team, then nothing really happens. But then once you start making these like smaller goals for them and making them track things over time, they can see big impact, which is 10, which after the first run around becomes tenfold because they realize the impacts that it can have. So yeah. Yeah. So advice for the new kind of people who are maybe in their studies. I think when I was in school and everything, we didn't talk about it a lot. There was a lot of theory, there was a lot of blah, blah, blah. And it was hard to understand what people were talking about without actually having like impactful real life examples and things you're working on. So I'd say like get an internship that focuses on that. No matter what industry you're in, everything now is tracked by KPI. Medical industry is tracked by KPI. Legal industry is tracked by KPI. Everything is going to have something like that, so it's important for really everyone to have a background in that. Advice for people just getting into it is like it can really be a catalyst for change in an organization, and especially as you are growing, it can help you keep a handle on everything going on in the company if your data looks good and if your data is strong and you notice trends before they end up being problems. That is super, super